I do it, finish it, even through the bumps and bruises. I'll never forget to this day, renovation nightmares, and we've all been there, right? I just was smelling the new paint on the walls. I finally got the final inspection, and I'm just like, I look at the floors, I like just do a turnaround. I'm like, how the hell do more people not know about this? I researched real estate for 4 years before I ever took action on it. Listening to podcasts, reading books and courses and meetups, and no one ever once mentioned the 203K, ever.
What is up, the M.O.R.E Show family? We are back with our third episode ever. Again, transitioning from the science of flipping, now the M.O.R.E Show, maximizing opportunities in real estate. My guests each and every week will bring you the heat when it comes to what kind of opportunities are out there. So this episode is, of course, brought to you by timeformore.com/pre-launch. If you want to be a part of a club that shows you all the opportunities, whether it be storage or apartments or 203K or land, whatever it is, get into this club. We are giving it to you for free as we are pre-launching the club. It's typically $3,600. Go to timeformore.com/pre-launch. Now, my guest here today is another genius, someone who finds opportunities where no one else can see them. My guy, Matt Porcaro, 203K Way Genius is here. What's up, dude?
What's up, dude?
That was a mouthful. I had to get all that out.
I love it.
And hopefully I got it done in one take.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, thank you for coming down to the studio again. This is now your second time on the podcast. This time now is obviously the M.O.R.E Show. Matt Porcaro, 203K loans. Where do people, why do people want to look into them? What are they about? Who benefits from these loans?
Yeah, so it's real estate's best kept secret, right? They're FHA products, right? So it's a government-backed financing program that allows you to wrap the renovation costs into the mortgage. Yeah. So I found out about it by accident because there was a ton of, there was a lack of inventory in New York. I couldn't really find anything that I could afford. I was struggling to find a house. I didn't have a lot of money. And I found out by accident from someone in my local real estate investment association. And she told me, hey, listen, you don't own a house yet. You can get 3.5% down, buy the house, get all the money to purchase, all the money to renovate, wrap in the closing costs, and you can actually wrap up to the first 12 months mortgage payments while you're renovating it.
So hold on, for clarification, you are literally into this for how much?
$9,500 was my first deal.
Yeah, but percentage basis, 3%?
3.5% so the first house I bought was a crack house duplex.
Before we dive in, I want to talk to you about LFS Capital. If you're looking to build passive income through multifamily real estate, LFS gives you access to exclusive apartment investments that aren't available to the public. If you want to diversify beyond stocks and create real cash flow, visit lfscapital.com to learn more and to get on the investor list. I personally invest with LFS Capital, and they have been incredible to work with. Their team is top notch. I get passive cash flow distributions to my bank account every month, and I'm always in the loop with what's happening with the apartments I'm invested in. The best thing is I don't have to worry about managing tenants or dealing with repairs. The team at LFS handles absolutely everything, and my income is 100% passive. And that's just the way I like it. So if you want to build wealth and passive income without all the work and additional risk, visit lfs.com.
Click
now
or
let's get to the
call
show
and get started on your real estate investment journey today.
It's the only thing I could afford on Long Island. Actually, I couldn't even afford it on its own. Yeah. It had an extra unit, which I didn't know about with FHA loans when you're an owner occupant, right? So this is for owner occupants, and this is the way to start. But other units, we're allowed to forecast that future rental income on the property, on your income. So it basically gave me a $2,000 a month raise so I could afford more. I was basically only pre-approved for about $270,000. Yeah. But when I added that other unit, which was about $2,500 a month, it boosted me up to $350,000. So I purchased the house, $270,000, wrapped $80,000 of renovation costs, plus I got all the closing costs wrapped in, and the first 6 months of mortgage payments wrapped in while I was renovating.
So what's your total loan?
$350,000.
Okay. So you take the $270,000 purchase plus the $80,000 or so, some change.
Yep.
And that's your total loan when you're paying it off and whatever.
Yeah. So I went into it with the idea that I wanted to be a real estate investor, right? So I looked at it and I'm like, okay, I'll be all in for $350,000. And at the end, I knew it would be worth somewhere in the 4s. So I'm like, okay, if I'm only coming out with this and I do that and I go through all my bumps and bruises on going through a renovation, this is the first time I ever done it.
Yeah.
But I always have my eye on the prize on like, this could really set me up.
Yeah.
And it was the only thing, again, out of desperation, it was the only thing I could do. I didn't have a lot of money. We were there was not a lot of money, not a lot of inventory in New York. Everything was super expensive. Even like I had a decent job. I was working my W-2 job at the time. And it ended up actually reappraising for $520.
No kidding.
So I built over $180,000 in equity.
At how
in
long?
8 months.
What was the time?
8 months. And I lived in one unit basically for free.
I mean, this is like the ideal.
Mortgage.
People talk about house hacking, right? And they're like, oh, okay, buy a duplex or a triplex and you live in a unit and great. I mean, I think it's great. This puts that on steroids.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's what I tell people all the time. House hacking, I think, is the best way to get into real estate investing, right? For people that don't know what house hacking is, to your point, you buy a single multi-unit property, which we could talk more about that with the new ADU concept and accessory dwelling units, because that opened up a whole new horizon.
Let's go.
In 2025, 2026. But you do that, like, let's just say a lot of people, they'll buy a quadplex, right? And they put a little amount of money down. They buy a move-in ready quadplex, which there's not a lot of them that exist in the first place on the market, right? So they get into it. It's move-in ready. They think. They get tenants. Now they're like, they put all their money into the down payment because they're using an FHA product, right? 3.5% down. So the little bit they save, that $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 is all they really had most of the times. And they want to be a real estate investor, but they get into this quadplex. And then what happens in a quadplex? What happens in 3 other units? People break tenants, shit. Tenants and like things break. And now you see it all the time. I mean, I saw it like all the time on Bigger Pockets. People like wanted to get into house hacking. I bought a house and we didn't realize how much work it was going to be. And the tenants, and now they're running up all their credit cards. And the whole point of why people do this is because they want to invest in real estate, right? You don't want to stop at one. You don't want it to hamstring you.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of these like multi-unit move-in ready house hacks can hamstring you, because if you don't have any equity there, you don't have anything left over. What's your trajectory to get into the next deal? And that's what was amazing about mine. Once I finished, I built $180,000 in equity, right? I immediately took that, got a home equity line of credit on it, used that for my flips. And then
so
I
you
started
could
flipping.
so the 203K loan got you to the place of renovation, gaining the equity. And then you could refi out of that as quick as 8 months.
6 months.
6 months.
Wow. So I refied into conventional. I built 20-something% equity. Refied into conventional. So I removed the mortgage insurance, right? So mortgage insurance, for anybody that doesn't know what it is, right? It's, I always say it's your ticket to low down payment loans, right? If you want to be part of the low down payment loan club, you all pay insurance. It's FHA doesn't write loans. The bank writes loans. FHA insures the loans.
That's right.
So you're paying a couple extra $100 a month to be part of that. Hey, I don't have to put $150,000 down on a house, right? Which I think is a very good trade-off. But when you build in that equity, again, contrary to just your regular everyday house hacker that's going and buying a quadplex, they have to wait for appreciation to happen. With my deals, I don't wait for appreciation to happen. I force the appreciation right away so that I can immediately exit. And it's basically the BRRRR strategy with your own houses, which is what I did.
And I love the BRRRR strategy, but this is even better because you get to live in it. So most people that would want to use this, first of all, you want to be an investor, but you also need to be the occupant. That's the only strategy, right? Like, don't you have to actually live in the property? Yeah.
So the rule is, it has to be your primary residence for up to a year after closing.
So then most people that do this, you could do it on a single family property, but you and I would probably suggest do a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex. Do anything residential, not 5 doors or more, but like do a duplex more than a single family home. You can 100%. Use a single family home, but wouldn't that make more sense? Like if you want to be a real investor, then you want to have longevity in your investments. This is just insane. I want to lean into this because you already got my mind thinking about the whole ADU stuff.
Dude.
This is a big thing in Jersey, San Diego, New York. It's not quite catching up everywhere, but here in Miami, they're called different efficiencies, but it's the same thing. ADU,
or mother-in-law suites,
that's right. How can you use it for that?
So, about a year and a half ago, FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all the government sponsors entities that do the home buying programs, all agreed that housing is an issue in the United States, affordable housing, right? So how, what are ways that we can combat this without the government saying, hey, we have to build houses, right? So ADUs have been around for a while, right? Yeah. Granny suites, we've heard them called mother-in-law suites, casitas, accessory dwelling units, whatever. And with like the FHA loan, for example, right? I talked to you about, we can forecast the future income of those other units to help you afford more and ultimately subsidize your mortgage payment. So it's a smart financial decision too. If when you're just starting out, you're younger, maybe you don't have kids yet, or you're just starting your family, like, hey, it's a great way. Hey, I could cover most of my mortgage payment. Or, I was living for $400 a month in New York, in Long Island. That's crazy. Living in a $600,000 house. Yeah. Like, it's unheard of. So up until that point, it had to be a like legal duplex, triplex, or quadplex to include that potential rental income.
Got it.
Right? Okay. About a year change ago, so this is brand new, FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac all said that any accessory separate living unit that's common and customary to the area, which is everywhere, by the way.
Yeah.
You can also forecast the rental income of an accessory unit just like you would a duplex, triplex, or quadplex. So what does that actually mean? If you go on Zillow right now and you look for quadplexes in any part of the country, right? Like the first thing people come to me, like, I want a house act, but there's no multifamilies in my market, or they're all crazy
priced. Yeah.
You virtually, I call them my hidden duplexes. You virtually, there's literally duplexes and triplexes sitting on Zillow right now that you can house hack as a triplex. The bank looks at it as a duplex, right? And you don't have the competition anymore because people don't even know it exists.
Yeah.
So now what we're seeing is now you're opening up, you're like, I've done the math. Quadplexes amount for about 0.25% of the entire residential housing market.
Okay.
Nothing. Now with these new ADU laws, you're virtually opening up to almost every single family house.
We have a mutual friend in Boardroom, Kevin. This is his game in San Diego.
Yeah.
Right? This is his entire world.
As a builder, yeah.
Right? Can you, now out of curiosity, you're directly from Long Island. Does Long Island allow this? Is it like, are people leaning into this more now, investors? Are they actually taking the time to buy the lot, understanding that the lot could fit an ADU? Are they looking at it that way yet? Because that's how Kevin runs it and he's crushing.
Yeah.
Are they looking at it in the same way in Long Island or in the greater New York area that you're seeing?
So I've been following the ADU narrative for probably a decade. Like I've known about it for a long time.
Yeah.
And it took some time to get some legs. California is basically ground zero for it. And that's where Kevin's doing a lot of his ADU builds. If you asked me 3 years ago if I'd want to invest in California, I'd say you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
For real estate.
Of course.
It's just like
anything. Yeah.
Right. It's just, but the ADU boom out there is crazy.
Crazy.
California, basically, there's a couple of them. Don't exactly quote me on this, but pretty much the whole statewide, everything's zoned to accept an ADU and a junior ADU, they call like every single family house. There's no exception. Like if you could fit it, you can get it. And that you don't have to go through any hoops. It's actually like pretty expedited. But in some cases, you're allowed to put up to 10 units on a single family plot. And that's what a lot of these guys and gals in the ADU space are doing in California.
Wow.
Heavy. Now, what I like to talk about and specialize in more is what are the houses that already accept an ADU layout, right? While ADU builds are good from an investor standpoint, it's crushing right now in California.
Yeah.
Like it's opened a whole new floodgate. And I nerd out about this, but the reason it's happening is because private equity is starting to see the margins on ADUs.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean? Local governments don't want to overcrowd the suburbs. I understand that, right? Like they don't want to shove tons of people in every house. But on the flip side, they don't have enough housing for people. So what's the answer, right? What happens to the Amazon worker that's single dude, doesn't need a luxury apartment, doesn't need a house, right? It seems like everything that's going up is either luxury apartments,
right,
or
a
big house, right?
Like,
but nobody's building like affordable starter homes. If you're a builder, the profit margins are in mansions.
Yeah,
that's what we're seeing in New York. So private equity is seeing that there's a real need for it. Yeah. Seeing the profit margins on these ADUs, right? Like I know you did podcast with Kevin, and like it's great. Like the ADU space is crazy, but at the end of the day, what do these local governments want, right?
Money, taxes.
So the sooner they're realizing that they can make more money from it, the private equity firms are going to be lobbying the politicians.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it happen everywhere. They have ADU laws in Florida. They're lobbying them. Once that starts to happen, it's going to be more widely accepted because from a national level, it's being pushed, and it's super lucrative. But what I was alluding to before with the ADUs is the beauty of it is if you're just starting out too, right? Kevin is doing like brand new builds, and across the country, like in New York, people aren't doing like separate ADU builds, but we are doing basement apartments, split level home conversions, garage conversions. Like if there's already a space that exists, that's the sweet spot because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's usually already set up so that you can accommodate it and you actually don't have to spend a lot of money to do it.
If you already own your home and you want to do a 2 or 3K loan, so you already have a whatever conventional or FHA or whatever you might have, can you convert or refinance into a 2 or 3K loan?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what we're seeing a lot in California.
Okay.
Right. Usually when people want to pull out equity from their house, banks look at loan to value, right? So banks traditionally, even on your own home, will only lend up to 80% total. So if you have a mortgage at 75%, all that's left is 5%, even though you have $300,000 of equity.
Right.
With a home equity loan or home equity line of credit or something like that, you're only able to access up to 80%, sometimes 90%, but then they're going to kill you on rates, right? You're paying 8, 10%, and then it's interest only and the balloons and stuff like that.
Right.
The 203K is a 30-year fixed. You can refinance with those to build ADUs, add dormers, add square foot, whatever you want to do. But the beauty of the 203K is you can leverage up to 110% of the ARV of the property. So you can actually over leverage it by 10%. Now, obviously us being investors, we wouldn't want to do that, but people in California are doing it because if you look at the 1% rule, remember the 1% rule that like everyone used to, if you look at the 1% rule, an ADU build is $200,000, but they're making $3,000 a month.
You get your 1% all day.
It crushes your 1% rule.
Yeah.
And now that's what everyone's seeing and doing is they're building these quick ADUs. Yeah. They're renting them for a fortune. They're getting the rent. It's in demand. And it costed you way less than anything else that any other investor is getting in any other asset class right now.
I think so. If you're sitting here and you're living in a home that you're like, I can't afford a new home. Like this is why this is so right now, this moment of the world and economy. You and I were talking last night at dinner. Like if me and my wife were to sell, my next home is double, if not triple the price of my current home. There's no like middle ground between where my home's at and the next one. So you're like, okay, well, I can't necessarily go to the triple the price, right? And what do I do? Well, this is the option that you can say, okay, well, I want a new kitchen. Well, now you can get one. I want to add square footage. Now you can. I want a vaulted ceiling versus flat. Like you can do all this. You just refi into this and essentially you can get 105 or 110% of the value. Again, I wouldn't suggest anyone getting 110% just for basic principles, but it's there.
Yeah. We're seeing it a lot because what's like the common narrative right now is a lot of people refied during the pandemic to 3% rates, right? And they're like, they don't want to get out of their 3% mortgage. But here we are 6 years out.
Yeah.
And people feel like it's like almost became a prison sentence. Yeah. We talk to a lot of buyers all the time where they don't want to give it up, but they have 3 kids and they bought a starter home.
Right.
And I'm like, what's your alternative? Like, and then also, like you said, now you got to sell that and go find something else. Totally. You know, the market's all over the place in the country, but in most, like main areas in the United States right now, real estate's still competitive. Real estate's still there's a lot of competition and like you're going to get into a bidding war and you're going to overpay for something. Why not make the house you want?
Yeah.
because no house is going to be what you want it to be anyway, right? Make the house you want. If you want to build an ADU, you can do it, right? And then, look at the economics in your market, right? I tell people this all the time in New York, right? If you're renovating your house, we did it for my own home. Like, so I practice what I preach.
Yeah.
Did this for my forever home, right? Yeah. We bought it for $600,000 off market. Thanks to you. You convinced me to buy my own house off market, which was really cool. I kind of fell into the trap. It was, you remember, I fell into the trap of I was a real estate investor flipper. Yeah. But then when it came time to buy my own house, I fell into like the open house trap and chasing. And I was like, you were like, dude, just go off market. And we picked it up from an old lady, was about to go into a retirement home. They were about to list it for $750. We got it for $615. Because they didn't want to, here was the thing.
Speed and convenience.
Yeah, they didn't want to deal with, with realtors. There was repairs that needed to happen to the property. I'm like, listen, I'm buying with a renovation loan. You don't have to do anything with it. Anyway, so aside from that, thank you for that. I wouldn't be in my house without you.
Yeah.
And, but the point I'm getting to is we completely redeveloped that house. I mean, we gutted it, knocked down most of it pretty much and rebuilt the thing. We added about 1,000 square foot to it. We added 1,000 square feet at about $250 a square foot, right? Which is pretty good. Like it depends on where you are in the market.
In New York, that's the right price.
But in New York, newly renovated houses are selling for $550 a square foot.
Right.
So you're netting, I call it equity arbitrage, right? Like you're putting in, it costs you $250 to build square footage. You're using the bank's money to do it. You're not using your own money to do it. And you're getting that equity on the back end. Plus, you're getting the house you want. Like, me and my wife picked every single thing we wanted. There was no house that we would have ever been able to pick.
That would have gotten everything.
I could have bought something move-in ready. It's not like I didn't, but I'm tainted in the fact that even my own primary residence, I can't look at as not an investment. Like it has to be an investment too.
I think we all do that.
And we all do it. It makes it, it was like, point of contention sometimes with my wife, understandably, like I would call it a deal. I would catch myself like calling it a deal.
Our deal.
It's not, it's our house. And she's right, but it's still an asset, right? It's still something that you have to look at. And that's the essence of what I preach with anybody is as a first-time home buyer, never, ever, ever, ever buy your forever home as your first home. Get that multi-unit property, build equity, if you do nothing else but buy a duplex for 3.5% down, you put $20,000 down, you live in one unit, you rent out the other, you basically barely ever pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
You renovate it, you build some equity, you accelerate that equity, you live in it for a couple of years, you move out and you rent out both units, and let's just say it breaks even. In a place like New York that's appreciating 5 to 10% a year, if you do nothing else, you have $1 million asset in 30 years that you never paid into except that initial $20,000.
Yep.
Find me a 401k, find me a mutual fund, find me any type of investment where you pay into it once and you liquidate in 30 years at $1 million.
What are the criteria, right? So whether it be credit score, debt to income ratio, let's just say someone lives in their home as an example, and they're like, I really want a pool. Right. Nowadays pools are like $100,000. It's insane. Yeah. So I want a pool. Yep. So what are the things that they need to consider if they're living in the home? They're like, I want a pool, or I want to pop the top and develop up, right? Or whatever it is. What are those things? Yeah. So all these loans, they're 30-year fixed mortgage. They're mortgages, right? They're like owner occupant mortgages. So they base it off your income. Like they base it off. It's like a regular FHA loan. It's same stuff. 580 credit score. Yeah. Be in the 6s because lower your credit score, the more you get hit with a rate. 2 years of consistent income. Business owners can do it. Like people, I'm not W-2. Yeah. Like we deal with business owners all the time. You just have to. So you can do a stated loan and the whole thing, or bank statement loan, or what?
Not bank statement, but what you show in your taxes and everything. And, we work with the accountants, and like when you're ready to buy a house, usually you let your accountant know and they'll show more. Yeah. And we're not doing it forever, but it's like, hey, if you want a ticket to the best ride in town, you gotta pay the admission fee, no doubt. Right? Like, we joke about it all the time. Like, you want to not pay taxes plus get the best housing products that the United States has to offer. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Yeah. But anyway, suffice to say, it's 2 years consistent income, 580 credit score, be in the 6s, and that's it. And it goes off of your DTI, right? 50% DTI, like that's income. Like that's how they look at what your monthly nut is, and your gross income needs to be, under half of your mortgage payment or whatever. 50%, your mortgage payment has to be 50% of your gross.
What do you think that the audience as a whole is either not knowing? Most people probably don't know about this. What are some of the things that like they're not familiar with it? Maybe they would hear it and they say that's not true. What myths might be out there that maybe they heard of a 203K and they're like, no, you can't really do that.
This used to legitimately, it sounds funny, but it literally would keep me up at night. Like I'll never forget doing that first deal, right? And I took my bumps and bruises. Like a lot of people don't talk about this, and I had to fumble my way through it.
Sure.
There wasn't a lot of information on it. No, I Googled it. Like nobody talks about this.
Yeah.
But I knew that, like I said, out of desperation, this was the only thing I could do. It was like, if this wasn't it, I was never buying real estate.
Yeah.
This was my only crack at it. I had to buy something that was super undervalued because it was a trash bin.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of money to do it. It's like, if this works, this is the only thing that I have a chance at. But I do it, finish it.
Yeah.
Even through the bumps and bruises, I'll never forget to this day, like renovation, nightmares, and we've all been there, right? And I just was smelling the new paint on the walls. I finally got the final inspection, and I'm just like, I look at the floors, I like just do a turnaround. I'm like, how the hell do more people not know about this? Why? I researched real estate for 4 years before I ever took action on anything. Listening to podcasts, like reading books and courses and meetups, and no one ever once mentioned the 203K. Ever. And I found this lady, Melissa, who, when we were in New York, I thought that was a really cool full circle moment. Melissa runs the local RIA and where we're at in Long Island. And she brought it up to me. She's like, listen, I've never personally done it, but there's this thing called the 203K loan. And if I can go back in time, that would be the way I started. And she planted that seed. Fast forward, here we are 10 years later. It kept me up for years. Why do more people not know about this? And I think I have the answer. Real estate agents and lenders, right? Someone wants to buy a house.
Yeah.
Who's the first person they go to? Real estate agent,
Yeah.
right? They're getting all their home buying knowledge from a real estate agent, okay? Real estate agents they work on commission. They want whether we want to say it or not, they're in their buyer's best interest. They want to get you to the closing table.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
They will sometimes, slither their way through the transaction, make you overpay, make you take concessions you shouldn't take, just because they want you to get to the closing table. I understand you got to feed your family.
Yeah.
The 203K obviously adds a couple steps to the process, right? You're bringing on a contractor. You're creating a scope of work, right?
This is all part of the buying process.
Right.
Got it.
So you purchase, you get a property under contract. Instead of going and getting an inspection, you bring in a 203K consultant or inspector. Got it. They go in, they inspect the property, but then they build out a scope of work, right? Which every construction project has. But it's funny because the common thing is, 203Ks are too much paperwork, or they're too much of a pain in the ass, or they're not worth it. Yeah, maybe not worth it to the agent, because the agent doesn't make any more money. They make money on the purchase of the sale. Right. Not on the added renovation
But they actually have to do more work in part of the deal.
Right. So in their defense, why would they want, so the first thing, they're a pain in the ass. So I created the 203K way, which is my online community, right?
Where can people go find 203K way?
Instagram, the 203K way. That's where I do everything. The 203kway.com, but Instagram's my jam. I have a Facebook group. You search up the 203K way anywhere. Have a YouTube channel. But the reason I did this was because people were coming to me and asking me about it, like on Bigger Pockets and forums and like online groups and stuff. Because anytime, once in a while, 203K questions would come up. Yeah. And I'd answer them. And I realized I'm constantly answering the same questions because so many people were going to their agents, going to their lenders, and they found out about it some way. They found out about it, right? They would just be shot down, and they're in the exact same situation that I was. Yeah. I want to buy a multi-unit property. I want to renovate. I want to get into real estate investing. I'm struggling to find something I can afford in my market. I heard about this thing. I could buy a fixer-upper. I'm open to it, right? I'm open to doing the work and putting some elbow grease on these deals to make it work. I'm desperate. So they come to me because they're like, this is so good, but lenders are telling me it's too much of a pain in the ass. Agents are telling me it's too much of a pain in the ass. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, number one, the agents that we work with now, like that you implement this into your business, you're a superhero.
Yeah.
Instead of ignoring the obvious need, now you're offering something else that nobody else is.
Well, because as an
no
agent, the
competition.
challenge for agents right now is people don't want the inventory that's out there. There's not a lot of inventory.
Yeah.
And the inventory that is out there is dated and older and not what people really want.
Right.
So now if you're an agent that says, we need to buy it, but we need to buy it with the 203K, because now you can get the new kitchen you want. You can add the pool that's not currently there.
Yep.
You can, all these, like every agent who understands this should lean into it. I mean, 100%. I'm literally, after our conversation last night, we talked about like, there's no bridge between my home and the next home. It's crazy. Part of that is like things like pools in Florida are important.
Yeah.
Like those are expensive to be able to go out and to go buy a home that's like, I don't really love it, but have the opportunity to say, let me call Matt right now and let's go get this loan.
It changes the whole conversation when you go to your buyer and the buyer's already frustrated, right? Because they can't find anything that they want. Like they're maybe priced out. They're usually always priced out of the neighborhood they want to be in.
Right. That's right.
So if you as an agent could go to them and tell them, hey, listen, what if I told you like, let's shop the neighborhood? What if I told you like, let's open it up to fixer-uppers. If I can get you all the financing you need to buy the house and do all the renovations you need to it, nothing out of your pocket, and you're pretty much going to make the same mortgage payment every month that you would for something move-in ready, would you be open to that? 99% of people are going to say yes.
Yeah.
Whether they do it or not, now you just won their business because no other agent is saying that. They didn't even know. They're thinking they walk into a house. I always tell agents, like, it's not about what they're telling you. It's the conversation they're having in their head or with each other, right? Yeah. They told you they have 200 grand in the bank, right? They're well off. And you go in there just assuming that they're going to, they got some money. They're going to do renovations. Maybe they don't want to. Maybe that whole thing is they're putting their down payment down, and then that extra cushion is like what they want for their vacation or their kids or their college or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. If you have an opportunity where they could do this and not come out of pocket with anything additional, and actually like the beauty of these programs too is like it's very easy to wrap in closing costs because you can get seller's concession very easily because you're going off of the after renovated value. Appraisal is never an issue because you're not appraising based on the current value, you're appraising based on the future value. So you can wrap in closing costs. You can wrap in, again, up to the first 6 months mortgage. People are like, what do I do? I don't, if I buy this house, how am I going to afford to rent?
Money, right,
how am I going to afford to rent and live there? Well, they thought about that. This is your primary. You can wrap up to the first 12 months payments into the loan.
Because that was my next question, is the person who's about to go buy a home, they're going to renovate it, so they probably can't live there. They can choose to try to, not ideal.
Right.
But then they got to go rent somewhere.
Yeah.
So they get to build up to 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it tacks on just like the renovation budget does, right? So it's like,
the loan
and it
bigger.
could, the loan amount's bigger. But again, like I always tell people, like your payment's going to go up a couple $100 a month, but what's the alternative? You're paying two places. And you're spending $60,000 out of pocket.
Right.
Keep that in the deal. Again, you're renovating, use that future equity today, right? You're doing the work. Reward yourself today for the work you're doing. $400 more a month, but keeping 60 grand in your pocket. Put that 60 grand in an investment.
Help agents sell this right now. Mm-hmm. I think the people, first of all, go find Matt, go the 203K way on Instagram, all over, go to the website, go to the Facebook groups, the 203K way. But I think what would be really helpful, not just telling the homeowners that are listening to this, try to help agents have a pitch for this. So what do you tell them to do?
It should come up on every first buyer's call, buyer consult, and every listing consult too, right? Again, on the buy side, hey, what are you looking for? Where's the environments? Okay, awesome. So there's a couple different ways we can help you. What have you been struggling with? Oh, a bunch of things need work. Like identify what their wants and needs are, right? It's not for everybody.
Right.
But if in many cases, again, they're usually trying to get into a neighborhood that's a little bit out of their range or, for the schools or whatever. Listen, what if I told you, if we open it up to potentially looking for fixer-uppers, I know some programs where we can get you into the house. We could do all the renovation. You could wrap in all the renovation costs. I'm connected with the lenders that do it, the contractors that do it, everything. We could set it all up for you. Would you be open to also exploring fixer-uppers if you didn't have to pay anything out of pocket for the renovation? Again, That's
a huge sales pitch. If you don't have to come out of pocket for the renovation, that alone, homeowners go like, I mean, I could be open to that.
If you can make the same payment you would normally, but get all the money you need to renovate it the way you want, would you be open to that?
Any agent tells me that, I'm going to go house shopping.
Game. Hook, line, sinker. And we'd say like, Zillow leads are a thing in the business, right? And like you're calling Zillow and these people are talking to like 8 people. They're getting bombarded. Our agents that do it, they bring it up on the first conversation because you're just literally bringing up something that they've never heard of before. Now, the beauty in all of it is probably 95% of them won't even end up doing it. But at least you brought to them something new that won the business, right?
Now you got the business, and even if you buy a normal home with a normal loan, the agent got the business.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, on listings, because every agent wants listings, really, right?
Of course.
It helps you win listings. Now, move-in ready house, $2 million house, like, no. But Granny, the boomer who's been there for 30 years, hasn't updated it in 30 years. Maybe she's a little self-conscious about, or I always say, never call anyone's baby ugly.
Yeah.
Don't call the house ugly, but, ask like, hey, is there any repairs and any blah, blah, blah. Well, listen, how about this? Obviously you might get some flippers giving you cash offers. We're gonna get you top dollar. Yeah. The way we're gonna do this is there's actually some programs we're connected with the lenders. There's a lot of buyers out there that we're connected with that they're just looking for the area. They really want to be here and they don't care about the condition of the property because they're using a mortgage where they can buy the property in as is condition. That's the beauty of this. It doesn't matter. There could be violations. It could be a foreclosure, falling down, no windows, no roof, whatever. You could buy it in any condition. So you tell them, we can actually get you top dollar for your house because we're going to sell what it's going to be to the end user, owner, occupant, family buyers that are just trying to get into this neighborhood. So you're afraid that, the house, like, oh, I got to fix up a couple things before I list it. No, we've had a couple people. We had an agent the other day that just won a listing that way. The seller ghosted him for like 2 weeks. And he's like, hey, listen, I think I know a way. I know of a way we can get you top dollar for your property. I know you were concerned about the condition. You've been getting a lot of like lowball investor offers. And he won the listing that way just by bringing that up. Now, again, beauty of it, funny part is it didn't go to a 203K buyer.
It didn't.
But it got his foot in the door. So it's an incredible tool to have in your arsenal, especially when the competition's only getting more fierce.
Yeah.
Right. AI is coming into the mix. Like you have to be creative in this game right now because the traditional cookie cutter way of doing real estate is going extinct a little bit, right?
Well, there's no inventory. The interest rates are higher than what people want. I mean, there's just the economics of the world right now.
Right.
And it's simple supply and demand.
Right.
And so you're forcing the opportunity to have demand because now you're solving for how it gets the valuation, whether it be an ADU, which I love both of these topics. If I'm an investor or even a homeowner who's coming down on tough times or needs to move their family in, build the ADU, get the loan to build the ADU. If I'm an agent, I think you need to be screaming from the mountaintops to every agent, right? Again, even getting the listings with Granny's home, that's all original, built in 65 and all the original stuff. I can go get you top value because I work with the lenders that get after repair value. So after someone comes in and replaces your pink tile, Granny, I can get that $800,000
Yeah, I'm not selling
point.
to the flipper. I'm selling your house to the end user.
That's right.
Which no one's going to pay more than the end user.
I mean, this is, I think, is something that is huge. Again, this is what this whole show is about. Where's the opportunity in the marketplace? And that's it.
Yeah, it's like you
homeowners,
said.
Like the fact that homeowners who own a home who aren't like, they do want to upgrade, but they don't know where to go. There's no inventory. Yeah. Or like me, it's literally a $6 million home.
Yeah.
Okay, well then why don't I make the home I want?
Right. And that's we're seeing it. We dealt with some weird times in during the pandemic, and everyone still has a recency bias with what the market was doing then. 50 offers on every house and highest and best. And like the market obviously has shifted tremendously, right? It's not just you get a listing and you're immediately printing money. It's going back to, dog eat dog times. And this is just another thing to put into the puzzle. But something as simple as, like you said, if you're building out a unit, if you're renovating your house, if you're a new buyer, hey, rates are high, buy a multi-unit, right? Like, you don't have to have someone like, okay, like, I don't want to live with, what's your alternative, right? Like, my parents had a basement apartment in their house for years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't called house hacking. They didn't want to be investors. They just couldn't afford to live on Long Island.
Yeah.
As many people can't, but they lived and worked there and they had to find out a way. Now, as we got older, me and my brothers got older, obviously, like, people didn't live there anymore and we had the whole house.
Yeah.
You grow into it. Like, we could fight what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And we could wait for rates to come down, which is, as you know, a loser's game, right? You could wait for markets to soften up, or you could look at the opportunity and make the best out of it. And I'd argue that it's with these new guidelines with FHA, Fannie Mae, and like the ADU stuff, like, it's more lucrative than ever.
Well, you can pay your home off faster, getting an ADU. You do Airbnb, the ADU if you need to. Like, there's just so much opportunity here.
Right.
Well, dude, this is something we got to keep talking about in the club.
Yeah.
So the M.O.R.E Club, if you are not part of the M.O.R E Club, go to the timeformore.com/pre-launch. It'll be free for life if you join right now as you hear this. Matt and I will be talking more about this in the club. You'll hear about all the different opportunities. Again, the 203K way on Instagram. There's a Facebook group, and he will be in the club itself. So go register now, timeformore.com/pre-launch. You will have it for free. It's usually $3,600 a year once we launch this thing. I appreciate you being on.
You're the man. Thank you.
Dude.
This is awesome as always.
If you think someone needs to hear from Matt, make sure to reach out to him. Make sure to share this episode. We'll see you on the next episode of The M.O.R E Show. Peace.